the greatest detective novel in history, Sherlock Holmes.
The Adventure of the Speckled Band.
It was one of those damp, gray mornings in early April when the chill seemed to hang heavy in the London air. I had just finished breakfast at Baker Street when Sherlock Holmes, wrapped in his dressing gown and smoking lazily upon the sofa, suddenly sat up with interest. Our landlady, Mrs. Hudson, had shown in a visitor, a young woman dressed in black. Her appearance was striking. She wore a thick veil that only partly hid her pale, frightened face. Her hands trembled as she sat before us, and her eyes darted around as though she feared unseen enemies, even here in the safety of Holmes' rooms. "My name is Helen Stoner," she said, her voice unsteady. "I live with my stepfather, Dr. Grimesby Roylott, at Stoke Moran. I've come because I fear for my life." Holmes leaned forward, his eyes glinting. "Calm yourself, madame. You are in no danger here. Begin at the beginning, and tell me exactly what troubles you." The poor lady clasped her hands tightly. "It is a story full of misfortune. My mother married Dr. Roylott when I was just a child. He belonged to one of the oldest families in England, but after living in India for many years, he returned a violent, bitter man. My mother died in an accident not long after their marriage, and since then my stepfather has become unbearable, hot-tempered, solitary, and feared by everyone in the countryside. He has even struck his servants and thrown furniture about in his fits of rage." Holmes nodded, encouraging her to continue. "My twin sister Julia and I were the only comfort to one another in that dreadful house. 2 years ago, she was engaged to be married, but on the very eve of her wedding, she died, horribly, mysteriously. Her last words haunt me still." Holmes leaned forward. "Her last words?" "She whispered, 'It was the band, the speckled band,' and then fell dead before me." The room was silent. I felt the hair on the back of my neck prickle. Helen went on, "I had nearly forgotten the horror of it until recently. I myself am engaged to be married, and now strange things have begun again. The very same room where Julia died is being prepared for me, for the house is under repair. Last night I heard the low whistle sound that Julia spoke of before her death." Holmes's sharp eyes had grown keener with every word. "This is indeed most grave, Miss Stoner. Did your sister mention anything else about this band she spoke of?" "Nothing more. Only those words." Holmes rose, his manner decisive. "Dr. Watson, we must go down with Miss Stoner at once. This is a matter of life and death." And so, with Helen Stoner trembling in relief that she was not alone, we prepared to journey to Stoke Moran. The journey into the Surrey countryside was a dreary one, beneath a low sky that threatened rain. Miss Stoner sat quietly, her face pale with anxiety, while Holmes smoked thoughtfully beside her. At last we reached Stoke Moran, a decaying old manor house surrounded by a tangled garden and high stone walls. Time and neglect had left their mark on the place. One wing was falling into ruin, windows were shuttered, and ivy clung to the broken masonry. Holmes observed everything with his piercing gaze. "A house that keeps its secrets close," he murmured. Before we could even knock, a tall, gaunt figure appeared in the drive, Dr. Grimesby Roylott himself. His face was fierce, his deep-set eyes glared with suspicion, and his long, yellowish face seemed more animal than human. He strode up to us, his step heavy, and barked, "What are you doing here? Who are you to meddle in my affairs?" Holmes, calm as ever, introduced himself. "My name is Sherlock Holmes. I am here at the request of Miss Stoner. We shall not stay long." Roylott's eyes blazed with fury. He clenched his fists and muttered threats. "Keep out of my business, Holmes, or you will regret it." With that, he stormed off into the house, slamming the door behind him with a crash. Helen whispered fearfully, "Now you see why I am so afraid. He is capable of anything." Holmes, however, only smiled faintly. "Do not worry, Miss Stoner. Such threats only strengthen my resolve." She then led us into the gloomy interior of Stoke Moran. We passed through the hall, where a cheetah skin was spread across the floor, and in the corner lurked a strange sight indeed, a large Indian baboon chained to a post, its eyes gleaming with mischief and menace. We were shown to Helen's room, directly beside the one where Julia had died. Holmes examined it carefully. The bed was clamped to the floor, immovable. A bell rope hung beside it, yet oddly it was not connected to any bell at all. Above the rope was a small ventilator in the wall, leading not outside, but into Dr. Roylott's own adjoining room. Holmes's eyes grew intent. "Most curious," he murmured. "A house fastened to the floor, a ventilator that does not ventilate, and a bell rope that rings no bell. All most suggestive." He examined Roylott's own room next. Inside, we saw a large safe, a chair, and a strange saucer of milk on the floor. Yet there was no cat to be seen. Holmes's lips tightened. "Watson," he whispered, "the case is clear. We shall return tonight." That night, after arranging for Miss Stoner to stay safely in another part of the house, Holmes and I slipped into Julia's old bedroom. The moonlight filtered faintly through the window, casting long shadows across the floor. We lit no lamps for fear of discovery, but sat silently in the darkness. "Watson," Holmes whispered, "no matter what happens, remain perfectly still. We are about to face the most deadly foe we have yet encountered." The silence of that long night weighed heavily. I confess that my nerves were stretched to the breaking point. Every creak of the old house seemed to echo like a footstep, every rustle outside like the movement of some unseen creature. At last, in the stillness, there came a faint sound, the low whistle Miss Stoner had spoken of. Holmes sprang silently to his feet, his eyes fixed on the bell rope that hung near the bed. Then I saw it, a thin, dark shape moving slowly down the rope, glistening faintly in the dim light. My heart nearly stopped as I realized what it was, a snake, its scales shimmering as it slid down toward the pillow. "Ah!" Holmes whispered. With a sudden movement, he struck at the rope with his cane, lashing furiously at the reptile. Hissing, the creature recoiled and vanished back through the ventilator. There followed a terrible silence. Then a scream so loud, so filled with agony that it echoed through the house. Holmes seized my arm. "Come, Watson," he cried. We rushed into Dr. Roylott's chamber. There, in the dim light of a lamp, we beheld a sight so terrible it froze me to the spot. Dr. Roylott sat in a chair, his head thrown back, his eyes glaring lifelessly at the ceiling. Twined tightly around his forehead, its spotted body gleaming, was the snake, the swamp adder of India, the deadliest serpent known to man. Holmes struck at it with the poker, driving it back into the safe. Then, calmly, he turned to me. "It was as I feared, Watson. The ventilator, the dummy bell rope, the bed fixed to the floor, all contrivances for one purpose. He had trained this snake, using the milk as a reward, to enter the room each night through the ventilator. At the sound of his whistle, it would return to him. Thus did Julia die, and thus would Helen have perished had we not intervened. I could scarcely find words. But Holmes, why risk such a monstrous scheme? Because, Watson, Holmes said gravely, Dr. Roylott sought to keep his stepdaughter's inheritance. Each would lose her fortune upon marriage. To him, it was worth murder. We left Stoke Moran in silence, the cries of the baboon echoing faintly in the distance. And thus ended the terrible affair of the Speckled Band, the strangest and deadliest case of my friend Sherlock Holmes's remarkable career.